It's time to hear it from Harlan. Utah Director of Athletics Mark Harlan takes you behind the scenes with the Utes, the Pac-12 Conference, and collegiate athletics. Now, here's your host, Mike Legasholt.
And welcome to the October edition of the Hear It From Harlan podcast. Coming up on the show, we'll look at the busy fall sports season, our first full month back in September. Courtney Brown of women's soccer joins Mark for his one-on-one interview. We'll also talk about a major Utah NIL event that took place this week. And Mark will also look at his new appointment as a member of the College Football Playoff Committee. Mark, I know you've been traveling out and about, so you've got 2 feet on the ground today. Thanks for joining us for the show.
Oh, no, Mike, it's always great to talk to you and get folks up to speed. But it's I tell you, I was thinking about this flying home last night from some meetings. There's a lot of great stuff going on right now.
Sure is. Let's start with football. 4-1 start and 1-1 in Pac-12 play. Tough loss at Oregon State last Friday. But I tell you what, to have this team have so many injuries, and you don't want to make excuses, but it's the fact. There are guys that are out. We have not seen Bad Moon Rising yet this year. We've had backup quarterbacks, and yet here they are, 4-1, and some good football ahead of them.
Well, like Coach Witt says, no one cares, right? And certainly our opponents don't. No, very impressed with the coaching staff. This has been a heavy lift. You know, we have a great team and with incredible student athletes on both sides of the ball, special teams, et cetera. But they're surrounded by a great staff. And, you know, to be 4-1 in top 20 with everything we've managed, I think is really impressive. You know, we've played a lot of Power 5 teams. I think, you know, beating I think who's going to wind up being a really good UCLA team. That defense was formidable that we saw. So I was really excited about that. Obviously, the game up in Corvallis was a tough one. You know, you kind of saw that game early on in the schedule. You know, Friday night, short week,
right.
All of that stuff. They were coming off a loss. I thought that, I thought we fought hard. We had some more injuries, so I felt really bad for some of the guys that went down. That was always hard to watch. But also, you know, when you see our incredible medical team who's been on the field way too much this year, do incredible work with our student athletes. It just, you know, I'm very grateful for them and everything they're doing. But, hey, listen, good week for a bye. Practice has already begun this week. Always hoping to get more folks back. We did have a few more back last week. We look forward to others coming back on the field, and we'll keep fighting.
Sure will. Next home game against Cal on Saturday, October 14th. We've had a lot of afternoon games, so for fans who love those, 1 o'clock kickoff coming up on the 14th against the Cal Bears. Well, Mark, Utah soccer really having a nice start to the year. 5-3-4 overall, 1-1-1 in Pac-12 conference play. They tied Oregon State last Thursday. That's a game that I talked to the staff. They thought they maybe should have won that game, kind of gave up a goal that they felt unfortunate about, but they bounced back, beat Oregon 4-2 on Sunday. Nice start to Ducky's crew.
Yeah, just really impressed. You know, they've been battling injuries too. It's been kind of going around the building a little bit, which sometimes happens, but they've had some young players step in, similar like we've seen in football, and really perform in a great way. We landed a little bit later than we thought. I was hoping to get down to watch that match in Corvallis when we landed in Portland, but we couldn't get there in time. But yeah, Hideki and I were texting each other. He was disappointed, but you know, I look at that differently. That's a tough trip. Any of our teams that make that Oregon trip, it's hard. And the fact of the matter is, they came back with a 1-1 great victory over the Ducks and just missed it with the Beavers. But what I really liked is how many shot on goals we had. We're really starting to see an increase of that. I know that's something Hideki's been really pushing. We'll talk to Courtney in a minute about all of that. But really, they're starting to get their form, and I'm really excited about where soccer is.
Yeah, Katie O'Kane named the Pac-12 Offensive Player of the Week, the first one Utah's had since 6 years ago. She had a hat trick in that match over the weekend. Yeah, but they're scoring some points, as you mentioned.
A hat trick in soccer is incredibly difficult. I know it gets all the publicity in hockey, but to do that in soccer, 3 goals in a match is a big deal for a team. Incredible performance and just a great win.
Yep, they're back home for Cal on Thursday this week at 6, and then Stanford Sunday at 1 o'clock. Utah volleyball, Mark, boy, tough blow. They lost KJ Burgess, the AVCA Pacific South Region Freshman of the Year from a year ago, out with an injury, but they've held in there okay, 7-7 so far. They swept UCLA in Los Angeles Sunday to split that trip. They lost a 5-0 to USC on Friday, but best crew hanging in there despite the injury to KJ.
Yeah, they're starting to adapt. You know, you lose a force of nature like KJ, you know, you got to adapt. And again, this is a theme. That's we're all talking out loud here. We're seeing some really high profile contributing players in our fall sports not playing right now, but with that brings opportunity. And I think we saw when they came back and had a really good, I thought, 5-match victory over Berkeley, kind of propelled them to the Los Angeles schools this last week. And the USC game came down to the wire, Mike, and I think it gave them a lot of confidence, and then they just took apart UCLA at Pauley Pavilion. Nice way to say goodbye to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
For Beth's team. But Beth, is continuing to stay positive, and her staff is doing a great job, and, it's good to see them getting better. And remember, when you go through these injuries, it's tough, but young student athletes get a chance to perform, and you learn some things about them. So there is positives in all of this.
Yeah, speaking of young players, Emery Satuwala, sophomore from Bonneville, she was at Idaho State last year, was the Big Sky Freshman of the Year, decided to come back home. She's been great filling in for KJ there in the middle. So as you mentioned, opportunity for some young players, and she is one who has stepped up for them so far this year. Cross country, Mark, they kind of ease their way into their season. The best runners don't go till later on, but already they had a second place finish at the GRIAC Invitational in Minneapolis, September 22nd. Anna Peters, McKaylee Caesar, Morgan Jensen all placed top 10 for the youth. They're ranked 18th now in the latest poll.
Yeah, Kep's got them living in the top 20, and they're pushing for more. But you made that comment about some of our A-type performers don't go in the fall. It's starting to show the depth of his recruiting efforts and our success of our team. So that depth is performing.
And cross country at home for the Utah Open, October 19th. That's a Sunnyside Park just down the street from us. So fans come out and enjoy that if you can. Women's tennis will host the ITA Regionals beginning October 18th at the Eccles Tennis Center. And before we get to Hall of Fame weekend, Mark, it's already time for basketball. The men and women's teams underway with practices. Have you had a chance to go out and catch that a little bit?
Well, I've been so busy, I haven't been able to go to practices since they've started formal practice. But as we know, there's so much other activity that goes on. So I've been over to the gym on both sides of the gym, and just been really impressed with everything. I have been in communication with both coaches. They're very excited. This is a stressful time of year, right? They're really putting their teams together. I feel like both sides, if we talk about the women first, obviously so many returning players on that team with a lot of really talented transfers and freshmen that have come in. So, obviously they got to put it all together, and they'll have big targets on their back this year, and Lynn loves that. And then on the other side, you've got Craig, and that those practices at Spain were so vital to where that team is. And when I was watching practice before they've started the formal, during the lead up to Spain, you could see how much we're more athletic, we're taller, we're bigger, the depth is there. So I'm looking forward to, as I'm sure everybody is, watching both these teams perform.
All right, so basketball just around the corner. The first women's exhibition game is Wednesday, October 18th at 5 o'clock, and the men host Westminster for their exhibition game opener on Wednesday, November 1st in the Huntsman Center. Well, Mark, always a highlight of the fall, Hall of Fame weekend. It was in the Huntsman Center for the first time this year over the September 22nd, 23rd weekend. The NCAA Elite 8 women's basketball team from 06. The 08 Sugar Bowl team was there, plus 6 outstanding individuals. Just a tremendous class, and always a highlight of the fall when that happens.
Yeah, it was a fantastic weekend. Obviously, I love the fact that the staff moved this to homecoming weekend. I think it added to a certain feeling about it. For example, the 08 team really hadn't gotten back together again, and so it served as a homecoming for them and also a chance to celebrate. But incredible, as you say, individuals, teams. We had so many people actually because of the teams and others. We moved it inside the Huntsman Center on the floor there. It was just a fantastic event by the staff. In my remarks, I said I'm always careful not to single out anybody because everybody's Hall of Famers as they go in that night. But it was great to be on the stage and shake Dr. Hill's hand for everything that he did, to have him go into our Hall of Fame. I mean, it was great for him, so well deserved. Great for the university for everything he did, and he was so pleased with everything. So great weekend. Obviously, ended up with a great win over UCLA the next day. So we'll continue to look at homecoming weekend. I thought that really added to it.
Yep, I agree. Great event to complement that weekend. You mentioned Dr. Chris Hill, also Hanno Mentala from men's basketball, Amanda Murgaard from cross country, track and field, Anka Friedrich, a 3-time NCAA champion skier, went in. Also Annabeth Eberle from gymnastics, and Sonny Adams, one of our first All-Americans in school history, went in from women's basketball. Well, speaking of women's sports, we talked about soccer a while ago. They are off to a very good start in Pac-12 conference play. They got a 4-2 win at Oregon Sunday, and one of their veterans of that team, midfielder Courtney Brown, joins Mark when we come back in just a moment.
For tickets, apparel, team schedules, and more on the Utes, Visit UtahUtes.com, the official website of Utah Athletics.
Well, this is the part that we get to talk to one of our great fall student athletes, and we're blessed to have Courtney Brown from our women's soccer team here today, coming off just a fabulous weekend. I know we didn't get both, but we had I thought, great 2 games performance up at Oregon State and Oregon. But before we get into that, Courtney, I just kind of learning about your journey. I mean, you've been here. I was just looking at this. Started in 2019. Started in 220, started in 221, and starting in 222. This is amazing. This is going into the season. You have totaled 1,273 minutes played. Utah's 4th highest total. I have a feeling when this season's over, you'll smash that. All these games that you started. I mean, when you came from Fremont High School here, did you envision this? That this was your path, that you were going to come in here right away and start and just be this accomplished?
Coming from high school, the transition from club soccer into college soccer is really tough. Like the intensity and the speed at the college level it's a whole nother animal. And so I wasn't really sure what to expect, but I did come in ready to compete and ready for, any fight that was coming my way. I really wanted to play. I really wanted to start. That was one of my goals. I don't think I was expecting much, but I was ready to put up a fight for it.
Well, it's like you got right in here and you started. And then what's interesting about your journey too, and of course we've had some other student athletes go through this. You went through, of course, the COVID experience, which was a journey for everybody, but you also went through a coaching change. So let's talk a little bit about that, because when you change coaches, obviously I'm a part of all of that stuff too. I'm looking for somebody that can lead you guys to the next step. But what's, I think, not talked a lot about is how difficult that is for you. So how has that transition? I mean, Hideki's been here now for more than a few minutes, but how did you manage all that? Because it seems like you guys have just continued to move forward really well.
The coaching change was kind of a hurdle that we had to overcome. Obviously, a new coach brings in a new style of play and a new system of how things are run on and off the field, and a new culture, so to speak. And so we have to figure out how to get this group aligned with Hideki's idea of what excellence is, because we're not used to what,
it's different.
It's different. His standards are. I think collectively we were able to get there. Obviously, after his first season, we made a lot of big changes. And then his second season, we had about half the girls on our roster were brand new. And so the challenge was to mesh everyone together, even though we were so brand new. And a lot of what we did off the field, I think, translated into the success that we had on the field.
Yeah, well, that's what I've seen, and just you guys managing through that. It takes leaders like yourself to help with that transition. So let's talk a little bit about this season. You guys you've had a lot of road games. That's the one thing I've noticed. And then I'm like, it's senior day this weekend. I'm like, okay, it seems like we just got started. But talk about the journey. You guys have been on the road. You've been tested, which I think really led to this kind of weekend you just had. So how are you feeling about the team right now?
I'm feeling pretty good about the team. I mean, I think I read earlier this week we have the largest unbeaten streak on the road in program history. Is that right? Something like that?
We will check that, but that's really impressive.
It's really impressive, and it's really exciting because we do bring it when we're on the road. I mean, usually home games are an advantage, and I don't know that that's the case when we go on the road to play the other teams, because we really do bring the fire, we bring the heat with us when we travel.
Right. Well, what I do like is we're lighting the U now.
Right.
Because you have a certain goalie that got on me about that. I didn't realize we weren't doing it, which is great. I love when student athletes use their voice, but we want to be able to light that U for all these home matches. So you've got the games this weekend. So you guys are coming off a lot of momentum. It's kind of, we were talking about it in segment one here. There's been some injuries amongst our fall sports more than anything I've been around. And you guys in volleyball and football gets all the ink, but it's never an excuse. But do you feel like you guys are settling in with some students coming back and also some of the youngsters that got to play during that? I mean, sometimes there can be a net positive here.
Oh, for sure. I mean, we have had our fair share of unfortunate injuries this season, and it's been a little bit tough to figure out how our system is working now with some of our more established players out. But I think we've done a really good job on filling those holes, and some younger players have stepped up and played a big role this season, which is really exciting to see. not just for them, but for the future of the program as well.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about you now. So you've been at University of Utah for a long time. You're going through this kind of final year journey. So what's next for you?
So I am kind of open-ended, honestly, right now. I feel like the U has put me in a really good position. No matter what I do, I have a lot of doors open for me, which I'm super grateful for. For instance, I'm an accounting major, and I'm going to be finishing my Master's of Accounting in December. And so I could be working an accounting job. There's lots of firms in Salt Lake that are hiring right now that I've been in contact with. Another route for me is playing professionally after I'm done. And Hideki is a great resource for me to be connected with pro teams, especially here in the U.S. And so it's really ultimately up to me to decide on what I want to do. And I just feel like there's not a bad route for me, Well,
it's really exciting.
Yeah.
I got to tell the president about you. He's a master of accounting
yes,
too.
He is.
He's gonna love that. Well, he was the dean primarily when you were coming through, school, and now apparently he got upgraded to the president's job. Well, that's really exciting. Let's dig in a little bit on that. I guess I always feel like if you've got a chance to go for it and to still compete, you should. So you'll just play that out, see what kind of opportunities they have, and then, like you said, you have this amazing opportunity. But that's really exciting to think about what's going to happen next.
Yeah, I think my first option for sure would be playing. I mean, obviously, who wants to give up their sport?
Keep going.
Keep going. That's my first option. But I really feel like my plan B is solid thanks to the U. I've been given great opportunities here. So
well, we thank you for everything you've done. Now I got to ask you about something, because I have a lot of notes on the student athletes when they come in. There's one I've never seen before, and I think it is so awesome. It says your sister Brittany is a Utah alum who is a part of the marching band.
She was.
How awesome! When did she finish?
So she graduated high school in 2015 and came to the U and was here for, I believe, 2 years, and then she went on an LDS mission.
Right.
And then after she got back from her mission, she actually transferred to UVU. But during her time here at the U, she was on the marching band. She played the alto sax, and we would come to the football games to watch her.
It's the best.
Not the football team. We would come watch her. So, and she loved it. She still talks about it.
Oh my gosh.
I love seeing the marching band during fall camp practicing
because you know what she went through. I'm telling you, I always tell people they practice so much. So she's probably watching the Rose Bowl in the morning. She's like, well, I wanted to march in that parade.
Oh, yes, yes.
Well, that's great. I'd never seen anything like that. And I just was kind of going through some other notes. I mean, obviously this is a few years ago, but was it always your destiny to come to Utah? Was that always kind of your dream? Or, I mean, I knew you were heavily recruited, but was that just, I'm going there?
I went through a lot of weird phases growing up where I didn't really know if I wanted to be in state or out of state because I just didn't really understand what I wanted.
Right.
I always had Utah on my radar, though. Yeah. I love the U. One of my relatives actually used to be the president here, and so it's kind of a family school. And I know that, Scott and the old coaches were really involved in the recruiting scene in Utah, so I was very familiar with them. And I really enjoyed my time on campus when I come to visits and come to camps. And so it really was one of the front runners all growing up. And I'm so happy that I came here.
That's great.
I talked to friends that I grew up playing club ball with, and they kind of have iffy feelings about their experience in college. And I feel very blessed that I don't have those.
Oh, that's great.
This has been a great place for me.
That's really gratifying to hear. I should have also mentioned you also have played on 2 different fields. You've been through a lot of changes during your time here. Well, thank you, Courtney, for everything that you've done for us. I appreciate you making comments about what the university's done for you. But thank you, your leadership. I mean, Hideki's talked to me about your leadership, everything you've done. I just look at your career, and we could go on and on about all the things that you've done. But you still got some great games ahead. I know you'll take it all in. Mm-hmm. I know it'll be a little bit emotional on this weekend, but of course there's more games after that to look forward to. But thanks for spending some time with us today.
Well, thanks for having me.
Appreciate you.
Follow the Utes on social media by searching for Utah Athletics on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
And welcome back. We appreciate Courtney Brown for dropping by. Mark, as you mentioned, she's played on 2 fields. She's had 2 names in her time here. Courtney Talbot is now Courtney Brown. She'll have 2 degrees, taking advantage of that bonus year to get her MBA before she leaves campus.
Yeah, just she's just awesome. And, you hear about this Masters of Accounting. It's the COVID situation, as bad as it was, there were some positives, and we've seen a lot of student athletes be able to complete their Masters. We certainly have seen student athletes at least be able to start on their Masters. So she's a great example of someone, and she's going to play.
Yeah.
She's going to go play somewhere, and then of course she'll fall back on this accounting degree, and maybe one day her name will be on the stadium when we hit her up for a gift.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, we'll keep that in mind.
That's right.
Yeah, great to have her drop by and join us. Well, Mark, before I get to some other topics, I want to mention the Lauren McCluskey Race for Campus Safety comes up on Saturday, October 21st. Race begins 8 a.m. at the McCarthy Family Track and Field Complex. You can register at laurenmccluskey.org, and always a special event on our campus during the fall.
Yeah, Jill and I, have talked for a while about this event, and they launched it here. Last year, I just didn't think we drove enough people to sign up for it. And, they do it up at Washington State, and I'm highly competitive.
Mm-hmm, right.
And so Jill and I were joking about, let's try to get at least 100+ folks out there this year. And I just encourage people to go to the website, like you said, and sign up for it. It's a really neat event. And obviously, Lauren remains so important to us in so many different ways. Anything we can do to support the foundation, we're going to do.
All right, so again, the website is laurenmccluskey.org, and the race is October 21st. Well, Mark, a big event for NIL today with the Gar family taking place at Rice-Eccles Stadium on Wednesday, and you took part in that. Just your thoughts on that large event for us.
Well, a couple things. When we got into NIL programming around the University of Utah, we were very clear on a few things. One, it just had to be done the Utah way. And really, at the end of the day, that means we're going to do it with great integrity, and we're going to surround the programming with great people. And so the Crimson Collective formed under those thoughts, and the board as folks that are extremely passionate about Utah athletics. And some had played here before in various sports, or some just have been a part of it in other ways. And I'm so pleased with the Crimson Collective and how they've really moved forward. Well, this event, enabling our football players that want to opt in to have a truck through the Gar family and through those efforts is remarkable. If you go back to NIL, some of the stuff when you listen to students, the ability to have transportation and housing, it was really, really important to them. And I feel like this is true NIL, and I'm really, really excited about it. I thought it rolled out really, really well, and I think there's more expansion as we go forward into other student athletes. As we continue to do this. But a lot of fun, a lot of smiles. It was great.
Yeah, great event. Well, Mark, as I mentioned top of the show, you haven't had your feet on the ground here too much in Salt Lake between your work with the Pac-12 Conference, also transition to the Big 12, and you're also this fall on the College Football Playoff Committee, a new appointee. Congratulations, by the way, on that, and just your thoughts on how that process has been so far for you.
Well, sometimes you fall back and sometimes you fall in. It just depends on any situation. But just picking up on how it happened. Jen Cohen from the AD at Washington accepted the job at USC. She was to be our rep. I also was going to be the next rep in 3 years. Well, that wasn't going to happen for other reasons. Jen just probably wisely, transitioning to USC. We all know when you come into a place, the best thing you need to do is be on the ground and be there. So Commissioner Kleofkoff reached out to me and said, Mark, I'd love for you to serve in this role. And I was honored. I was on the Football Oversight Committee for 3+ years representing the conference in Utah. And I think this is a great opportunity for the University of Utah, to be a part of this championship that just seems to be growing every year. So it's pretty intensive, but awesome. It's kind of funny. They send you this really fancy, kind of laptop deal, or I don't know, it's the biggest iPad I've ever seen. I guess it's an iPad. I don't know. And it's just filled up with the ability to watch all the games by 8 a.m. the next morning after college football Saturday. They've got all these games loaded up, and you can watch them in an hour.
Wow.
And the expectation of the committee is to watch games. What a concept. So I just told Carolyn, I said, hey, listen, the honey-do list on Sundays has got to be very limited. And she's like, why? I got to watch college football all day.
Austin's
because I thought you'd do that on Saturday. And I said, now I got to do it on Sunday.
Right.
So she just is like, whatever. But it's exciting. And, and just on a personal note, Bill Hancock, who's the executive director of the College Football Playoff, he and I go back about 30 years. he used to run the NCAA basketball tournament, and I used to run some of those in a previous job, and he's retiring. And so for me to be there with him on this last year is a really special thing. And I was just out there 10 days or so ago, went through all my training. Very fancy stuff they have there, and I'll be prepared to really make sure the championship is great as always. I've been assigned to the SEC, and I've been assigned to the MAC, 2 awesome conferences, and you're expected to watch all the games and be really involved in all the conversations. But with those 2, really make sure that you're kind of the expert in the room on those 2. Now, I don't know if the SEC fans have realized it's me. The emails will eventually start rolling in through opinions, but so far so good. But very honored. And, just to being around my colleagues in that way, especially with all the changes going on in the industry, there's also benefits that come to it, just being around those type of folks as we continue to navigate everything.
Hey, talk about the evolution of this. 12 teams next year. You're going to be a part of one of the biggest stretches maybe we've ever seen in college football history with the push of this playoff growth.
Yeah, and Mike, to be clear, this is a 1-year appointment because of the situation, obviously, with the Pac-12. And that's great. I'm going to go in there and give it all I have for a year, and then if I ever return to the committee down the line, that'll be great. But to your point, kind of like this last lap in the Pac-12, that our student athletes to be part of the group that'll put together the last of the 4 is pretty good, and I'm excited about it.
All right. Well, congratulations on that. Like I said, Austin's around the house Sundays. He can kind of pitch in to take out some garbage from time to time.
He submitted me like a top 10 the other day, and I think it had the Eagles on there. And I'm like, dude, it's not the NFL. And he just wanted to see if I was paying attention to what he put down. But, yeah, I'm sure it'll be a team effort.
All right, Mark, as always, appreciate the time.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate you.
All right, that will do it for the October edition of the Here from Harlan podcast. Thanks to Courtney Brown from Women's Soccer. Thanks to Matt Sanchez on the board. And thanks to Paul Kirk and Mark and Sarah from Communications for Mark Harlan. I'm Mike Lagerschultz. Until next time, so long, everybody.
This has been the Hear It From Harlan podcast. Subscribe and listen all year long as we keep you up to date on the Utes, the Pac-12 Conference, and collegiate athletics.